The North Sea and English Channel were cold and unforgiving, mist curling over the waves like a ghostly veil. German E-boats, sleek and diesel-powered, had once ruled these waters. Their S-100 class Schnellboots could sustain 43.5 knots, briefly reaching nearly 48. They struck convoys and vanished before destroyers could respond. Confidence ran high among German captains until Britain's small, nimble motor torpedo boats began to challenge them. Early British MTBs were unimpressive. 3 flotillas with just 18 coastal boats, 60 to 72 feet long, mounting 2 torpedoes and light machine guns, with no radar or reliable radio. But British designers and crews adapted quickly. Innovation, audacity and coordination turned the tide. Vosper and Fairmile designs produced faster, more powerful boats with heavier armament, including Oerlikon 20mm guns, machine guns and 6-pounders, capable of hitting German E-boats where destroyers could not. By 1943, the tactical reality was clear. In surface actions, British MTBs sank around 48 E-boats, while German crews managed only 6 MTBs in return. German doctrine prioritized speed and avoidance. British doctrine emphasized aggressive action, intelligence, and radar-directed operations. Civilian-born officers, like Lieutenant Commander Robert Peveril Hitchens and Peter Malcolm Scott, turned daring into strategy. Capturing E-boat S-41 in 1941 yielded critical intelligence, forcing the Germans to retreat from waters they once dominated. British MTBs were no longer vulnerable craft, they were purpose-built coastal hunters. The hunters had become the hunted, and the sea became a proving ground where speed, ingenuity, and coordinated tactics outweighed brute firepower. The collapse of German operational effectiveness, with merchant shipping losses dropping 79% in 1943, proved that audacity and innovation had triumphed over raw technical superiority. The transformation of Britain's coastal forces was as much about doctrine as design. Early MTBs patrolled in small groups, relying on stealth and speed. But lessons from engagements like those off Hook of Holland revealed the necessity of coordinated offensive operations. British commanders studied E-boat behavior, noting their reliance on speed, shallow water tactics, and night attacks. The solution was a combination of flotilla coordination, radar guidance, and aggressive pursuit. Fairmile D-class motor torpedo boats became the centerpiece of this evolution. At 115 feet long, these hybrid boats combined the firepower of a motor gunboat with torpedo capability. With 4-pack engines producing 5,000 horsepower, they reached 29 to 30 knots fully loaded, fast enough to shadow E-boats and carrying sufficient armament to inflict serious damage. Crews trained intensively in night maneuvers, boarding operations, and coordinated attacks. Each flotilla became a tactical instrument, capable of local superiority against the enemy. Lieutenant Commander Hitchens exemplified the new doctrine. In November 1941, his interception of 5 E-boats off Hook of Holland not only forced the enemy to scatter, but yielded the first significant intelligence windfall of the war charts. Logs, radios, and torpedoes provided insight into German tactics, allowing Britain to anticipate future operations. Hitchens' aggressive mindset reflected the broader doctrine shift: seek out the enemy, force engagement, and exploit every tactical advantage. This evolution forced German adaptation. By 1943, E-boats no longer dominated the channel. Numbers, radar direction, and improved MTBs neutralized their speed advantage. Even when E-boats attempted the classic hit-and-run tactics, British coordination allowed MTBs to pursue, outmaneuver, and, when necessary, ram their opponents. Speed was no longer enough. Maneuverability, planning, and audacity had shifted the balance. The British also innovated in camouflage and detection. Peter Scott's Western Approaches camouflage scheme, painting naturally shadowed areas white, allowed boats to approach E-boats undetected. Radar-equipped captain-class frigates coordinated flotilla operations, giving MTBs early warning and enabling precise strikes. The integration of intelligence, technology, and daring changed coastal warfare forever. Individual actions during 1942 to 1944 illustrate the dramatic shift in power. Hitchens repeatedly led offensive operations into German-controlled waters, capturing intelligence, damaging enemy boats, and forcing the Germans into retreat. Motor torpedo boat crews adapted to operate in extreme conditions: icy waters, high waves, and heavily armed enemies. Their willingness to accept risk became as decisive as their speed or armament. The Fairmile D-class boats and 73-foot Vosper MTBs formed a network along Britain's coastline. Bases at Gosport, Dover, Felixstowe, Newhaven, and Lowestoft allowed rapid deployment. Flotilla commanders coordinated attacks based on radar tracking and ultra-intelligence. The result was a force multiplier. A small number of boats could dominate large sections of the Channel and North Sea. German E-boats still had their successes. Exercise Tiger in April 1944, for example, allowed a small group to sink 2 American LSTs and inflict heavy casualties. Yet these successes were tactical and fleeting. By D-Day in June 1944, British and Canadian motor torpedo boats, coordinated with frigates and shore radar, maintained overwhelming numbers, restricted German movement, and neutralized E-boat effectiveness. By this point, German crews recognized the shift. The waters they had once ruled were no longer safe. British doctrine emphasized aggressive hunting, intelligence exploitation, and tactical innovation. Crews like those under Hitchens, Scott, and Dickens became elite operators. Their daring was matched by engineering. Mass-produced Fairmile and Vosper boats ensured numerical superiority, even in the face of German bombing campaigns. By 1944, the Royal Navy operated over 2,000 coastal craft, crewed by more than 25,000 officers and ratings, a force unmatched in history. This operational dominance was decisive. E-boat commanders admitted their inability to engage MTBs without risk. German tactical doctrine had prioritized sinking merchant shipping. British doctrine prioritized destroying E-boats. The casualty ratios reflected this: 48 E-boats sunk versus 6 MTBs, and 12 destroyers sunk versus 48 E-boats lost to coastal forces. The narrative was clear: purpose-built boats, aggressive tactics, and numbers trumped raw technical superiority. The story of Britain's motor torpedo boats offers enduring lessons. Superior technology alone is insufficient. The ability to integrate training, tactics, and numbers determines battlefield effectiveness. British MTBs neutralized technically superior E-boats through coordination, intelligence, and audacity. By exploiting shallow waters, night operations, and small unit tactics, they transformed the operational environment. Post-war, German E-boats were studied, admired, and even used by other nations. Yet fast attack craft development followed British principles rather than German. Coordinated swarms, sensor integration, and purpose-built specialization. Modern missile boats, patrol craft, and naval special operations vessels trace their doctrine to these World War II MTBs. The comparison with destroyers remains telling. Destroyers, built for fleet engagement, could not match the speed or agility required for coastal operations. German E-boats could outrun destroyers easily, but British MTBs closed the gap and turned the hunters into the hunted. The result was overwhelming success: 400 enemy vessels destroyed, 1,169 torpedoes fired, 32 submarines sunk, and 32 aircraft shot down. The human element, young officers averaging 22 years old, aggressive and innovative, was decisive, proving that training, morale, and tactical ingenuity can surpass raw firepower. In the end, the Channel and North Sea theatres demonstrated a fundamental principle of warfare: align your tools to the mission, exploit your strengths, and innovate relentlessly. German E-boats entered the war as one of the most advanced fast attack craft in the world. But Britain's small wooden boats, driven by audacious officers, tactical genius, and innovation, dominated through speed, coordination, numbers, and daring. The hunters had become the hunted, and history recorded the lessons for future generations of naval strategists.